Hello, my name is Keith Haswell and I'm a professional astrologer with 40 years experience in the business and over 30,000 clients worldwide. It's my pleasure to welcome you to part 2 of this topic, magical relationships. With part 1 I was very happy with the response that I got. Almost 10% of those who viewed that video have ticked the like box, and that is very important to me to know that the message is getting across okay, and that I'm sharing with you something that you value. And so I thank you for that and welcome you to this part 2. Magical relationships. Relationships are things that give us all so much trouble in our life, and yet we seem to want to come back time and time again to relationships, regardless of the hurt and the pain and the abandonment and the betrayal that we've experienced in relationships. Now, you are very different. You are a person who is very highly developed spiritually. The fact that you are watching this video means that you are on the crest of the wave of evolution, and you are a map maker. And what that means is that you have a love inside of you that is so powerful and so potent that is yet being denied. Just reiterating a little bit about the first video on this topic, part 1, that we all have different reasons for forming relationships: to end loneliness, to have companionship, to have someone that we can have sex with, to have someone that we can share our life with, and of course a search for love. But they are not really the things that you are looking for in relationships. What you are looking for is the magic. A magic that is just so real there, that makes life different and makes the relationship sparkle. You've gotten yourself into relationships where you've experienced those 5 things that I've just mentioned there: the companionship and the sexual fulfillment, and to end loneliness and to find somebody to love, and so on and so forth. But even then, when you found those 5 things there, you were dissatisfied. You were dissatisfied unless the magic was there in that relationship. And when you become dissatisfied, that means that you start to blame, you start to punish, you start to hurt, and you start to doubt. Yes, you doubt the sincerity of that person that you have that relationship with, but more importantly is that you doubt, blame, punish and hurt yourself. It's time to realize that you didn't deserve the pain that was inflicted upon you by the other, and you most importantly didn't deserve the pain and the hurt and the blame that you heaped upon yourself. Now, it's important to understand when I'm talking about relationships, I'm not just talking about intimate sexual relationships. I'm talking about relationships of a broad spectrum: workmates, friends, social relationships, relationships with children, relationships with relatives, neighbours and workmates, business compatriots and so forth. Now, because you are a map maker, because you are on the crest of the wave of evolution, it means that you have inside of you a love, a courage, a conviction and a commitment that is so strong. You have such a compassion for your fellow man and fellow women. You have such a compassion inside of yourself, and when you feel that pain, you feel it much more deeply than the average person, because you are a pioneer, because you are a map maker. So you feel the hurt more, it cuts more deeply. You feel the pain more, it becomes more powerful inside of yourself because you are a pioneer. The hurt that you feel from the failed relationships and the shame that you feel from the failed relationships cuts deeper. Now you have found your way to my website and to this video at this particular time, because at this time you are ready now for a healing that prior to this time you were not ready for. So let's now proceed. That's a little bit of a recapitulation of what I covered there in video number 1, part 1. And now we go on to the content of part 2. Now I must warn you here that this material that I'm going to cover here in part 2 will touch on cosmic themes that may perhaps stretch your belief patterns way beyond what you feel comfortable with. So just accept what you can accept and just put on the back burner that which you can't allow in. Now many times you've found that your relationships are filled with pain, and it doesn't have to be that way. Relationships do not have to be so terrifying. The relationships that you experience in your life should be full of wonder, joy, and a sense of, wow, I'm just in awe of how much more that this relationship has got coming for me. And magical relationships will do that when you allow the magic in to that relationship. The tenderness there in a relationship should not be based on the fear, but should be based on the joy and the wonder of how wonderful it is becoming. The suspense of a relationship should be based on how more exciting it is going to become, not how long you fear that it's going to last. Not fear, but wonderment. With the magic, you can allow a healing of you and a healing of the relationship. Now the question has to be asked, of course, with all of the hurt and the painful and the devastating relationships that you've experienced in your life, why do you still seek relationships? I mean, they take a lot of time, a lot of effort, and you think to yourself sometimes, I'm only going to get hurt in the end result, so why don't I just give up this idea of having a relationship or seeking a relationship? After all, you've been damaged, ripped, torn, abused, and ravaged in relationships. So even after all of that, why do you still want a relationship? There are very innate reasons why you seek a relationship. I'll use key words here to express what I'm trying to get across to you. The first reason is aliveness. That's the key word. Relationships are where you demonstrate that you are alive, that you are real, that you exist, and that you have impact in time and space. How do you prove that you exist? By impact. Now remember that we're not just talking about romantic relationships here, we're talking about all relationships in your life. It doesn't necessarily have to be a sexual relationship. It can be a relationship with the others that I mentioned before. So the first reason that you want to get into relationships is to demonstrate impact, to demonstrate your aliveness and that you are real. The second key word is wholeness. Relationships are where you express and reflect your wholeness. The wholeness of self. Now I'll just repeat those two words, express and reflect. That means coming from you and coming at you. Now you know by now that in the human level of consciousness that we're very complex beings. We have 12 faces of self. And I'm not going to go into a great deal of detail about these because I want to keep this video as brief as possible for you. The 12 faces of self are, first, the innocent. Secondly, the waif. Thirdly, the warrior. Fourthly, the nurturer. Fifthly, the seeker of truth. Sixthly, the seeker of love. These are all archetypal parts of yourself that are archetypal parts of your soul in each lifetime. Seventhly is the masterful self. Eighth is the magical self. Ninth is the destroyer aspect of yourself. 10th is the creator aspect of yourself. 11th face of the soul is the wise one. And the 12th, the fool. Now some of these aspects of yourself are denied, and they are therefore shoved down into the unconscious. These are all parts of your wholeness. The second key word, wholeness. And it is in relationships where you express and reflect your wholeness. So just as you seek wholeness as a natural instinct within you, so you seek relationships because it is in relationships where you express and reflect the wholeness of self. The third key word is individuality. At the same time as you seek wholeness, so you also seek your individuality. As you seek to be part of the whole, so you also seek to be part of your own independent self. And that is your individuality. To be independent and not dependent upon the whole is a vital urge within yourself, within your psyche. Similarly, relationships are where you express and reflect your individuality. Individuality means integrating aspects of self into this space-time rule set as expressions. You do that in relationships. Now, in the expression of this individuality, there will be in relationships discord. There will be times of disagreement. There will be times of conflict. If you are in a relationship where you just say, oh, we always get along, we never argue, we never fight, we never have differences of opinion, we never have tension in the relationship, then someone in the relationship is selling out. Someone is not expressing their individuality. It doesn't mean that you have to fight. It doesn't mean that you have to rip and tear at each other. But that individuality is so vital, and that will introduce into the relationship stress, tension, difference, and conflict. That's how we attain harmony within ourselves, harmony through conflict. Because there's that innate urge to express our individuality. So it's in relationships that we demonstrate, express, and reflect our aliveness, our wholeness, and our individuality. And that is why, no matter how much you've been ripped and torn and hurt and damaged in relationships, you will always seek relationship. The fourth reason that we seek relationship is expansion. The key word is expansion. There is a yearning that exists within energy. Everything starts in the universe in its evolutionary process as raw energy. And there is an urge within that raw energy to expand. And so it becomes thought. And then it becomes emotion and feeling. And then it becomes subatomic particles, neutrinos, quarks, faiths, charms, and so forth. Then in the human evolution it becomes electron, and then atom, and then molecule, and then molecular structures, all the time seeking expansion. Molecular structures become mineral and keep on expanding and go on into the plant kingdom, and then that energy goes into the animal kingdom and finally into the human kingdom. On all levels of this consciousness have this innate urge to expand. It's in your cells, it's in your DNA. It's in the very fibre of your being, the atoms and molecules there in your body. The innate urge to expand and become more. And it is through relationships that you expand and become more of who you really are. So that innate urge there to expand and become more will always lead you into relationship. Not necessarily, as I say, one-on-one sexual relationships or intimate relationships in that respect, but certainly relationships with that which is not self. Inherently, you know that. That is why you seek relationships. Even after all the pain, even after all the hurt, even after all the betrayal, even after all the abandonment, you still seek relationship. The fifth key word is together. The fifth reason why we want relationships is together. That's the key word. There is a gut level urge inside of you to want to create together. Chauvinism has denied that urge, and chauvinism has demanded singular authority. Now these are cosmic themes that I'm touching on here. The first energy, this is innate energy that is in the whole of creation. First of all there was the goddess, and she created the space. Just as the womb is the space for creation, so she created space. But she had no desire whatsoever to be the singular authority. And together they have created all that is. And that pattern, that innate pattern there in the start of creation, is carried on all the way down through the different levels of consciousness, right down to the human level of consciousness. That innate pattern to do it together, not to want to be the singular authority. So that is why you have that innate urge to want to create together, to want to form relationships. And it's in relationships that we achieve that. The sixth key word is love. And it is through relationships that you express and reflect your love, your caring, and your sharing, and your intimacy. It's in relationships that you give manifestation to these abstractions of love, intimacy, and caring. To say to yourself, I love, is not enough. You must demonstrate that love. Otherwise it's only an abstraction. And you do that through relationships. You need to put that abstraction into manifestation in order to demonstrate your love, intimacy, and caring. Relationships give these three abstractions impact to make them real, manifestation to make them real. This gives these abstractions expression, reflection, dimension, impact, and realness. And the seventh key word here is soul. Relationships are the most elegant way that you tend your soul. The thing that your soul loves most is love. It gets high on love. It is a loveaholic. It gets all excited when you start to express your love, your intimacy, love, and caring. It gets all excited. So by having relationships, it's where you demonstrate and express your aliveness, your wholeness, your individuality, your expansion, your togetherness, your love, and the tending of your soul. So that gives you a little bit of an understanding there about why you have that innate urge to form relationships in life. This is all part of our DNA. This is all part of every cell that's in our body. This is all part of our molecular structures. We are repeating the archetypal pattern that began everything in the first place. Well, I hope that you enjoyed this video as much as what you did the first part of the video on intimacy and relationships and magical relationships. It's been a great pleasure to be able to share this time with you. And where do you go from here? Well, just to recap, I'm happy to do your horoscope for you free of charge to help you to become more of who you really are, so that you can start to learn that you are a beautiful person, you are a pioneer, you are a leader, you are a map maker. It's time now to become more of the giant that you truly are, so that you can experience relationships in a new dimension, magical relationships, so that you can develop your relationship also with your inner friends. Your inner friends, I'll be talking more about them in future videos for you. There's your future self, which is a part of your soul, contains all of your futures for this particular lifetime. There is your higher self, which contains all that is. It's the piece of God and Goddess that you are becoming. It contains the memory of all of your past lifetimes, hundreds of lifetimes that you've lived to get where you are today. Think of what you've experienced in relationships in hundreds of lifetimes. How much pain there's been there, how much fear, how much anxiety, how much stress, how much hurt. So this is where you have come from to get where you are today. And you are on the crest of the wave of evolution. And it's time now for you to develop wisdom. Wisdom comes from experience and from an intake of knowledge. You'll never develop wisdom just through experience, and you'll never develop wisdom just through an intake of knowledge. It's through a combination of experience and an intake of knowledge, and from that, synergistically, comes wisdom. A whole that is greater than the sum of the parts. So it's time now to find your way to my website, www.mysteryofsirius.com. Submit your birth details through the Your Horoscope page. I'll send you your horoscope chart, which tells you where your ascendant is, very important for someone as highly developed as yourself. And that will help you to watch the video of mine on your ascendant sign as well. And then to get the 12 CDs that I send with your horoscope. This is all free of charge. 12 CDs out of my first book, What Really Matters, on astrology, meditation and reincarnation. In those 12 CDs that you download into your computer, I take you in and out of meditation time and time again to help you to become more of who you really are. And all of that is free of charge for you. And then there's horoscope number 2. If you want that done, it's only $10. And that's an individual thing. There won't be another person born with the same horoscope as you for another 25,000 years. You're quite an individual. And so horoscope number 2 is only $10. It's a 20-page printout that you are sent by email, and that there is a beautiful thing that tells you all about the individual things in your horoscope. The planets in the signs, the planets in aspect with each other, the planets in the houses, and what this all means and what tests that you've set for yourself in this incarnation. You've come into this incarnation in order to take certain steps forward in the evolution of your consciousness. That's the name of the game. And the moon is your emotions, Mercury is your mind, Venus is your love nature, Mars is your energy levels, Jupiter is your higher mind, Saturn is your practicality and organizational ability, Uranus is your intuition, and Neptune is your spirituality. Pluto is your capacity to transform yourself. So where all these planets are in your horoscope by sign, aspect and relationship with each other, and the houses that they sit in are vitally important for you to understand yourself. So it's nice to have this opportunity to talk with you. I look forward to working further with you should you desire to have your horoscope chart done by me and to go through my intensives. Thank you.